You know, so many people in our country are battling to get enough food to eat as the price of food is rising so quickly. Now, humanitarian organizations are warning that nearly 200 million people on our continent are experiencing what they call crisis levels of hunger this year. Most of those people are in 3 countries. They're in Kenya, Somalia and Ethiopia. There are also warnings that children and women are being particularly affected. Hiwot Emishaw is the spokesperson, the regional spokesperson for Save the Children. Hiwot, good afternoon to you and thank you for your time. How bad is the situation in these 3 countries?
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me. Indeed, it's very bad. As you rightly mentioned, it's a result of a compounding issues. One is clearly, the globe is currently dealing with unprecedented inflation in food prices. The Horn of Africa is no exception, particularly relating to the Ukraine-Russia crisis, as 90% of the wheat that comes into the Horn of Africa is imported from the 2 countries. That has disrupted the food systems entirely. In addition to that, we're dealing with the worst drought in 40 years, perhaps ever. 23 million people are now grappling with food insecurity. They're facing extreme hunger, as you said, in Kenya, Ethiopia, and Somalia. It's very bad, particularly relating to the situation of children, women who are forced to be displaced from their communities in search of water and food for their families.
Is the civil war, well, I don't know if civil war is the right phrase, but the conflict we've seen in Tigray and Ethiopia making this worse as well? Has that been a factor in this?
The report that we're talking about today, particularly, which is called the Dangerous Delays Report, refers to the drought-driven hunger crisis in the Horn of Africa, which also includes Ethiopia. The crisis in the north of Ethiopia is not part of this particular report. This is mainly in reference to climate-induced, conflict-induced, and the skyrocketing food prices resulting in food crisis mainly in the 3 countries I mentioned, but in particular reference to Ethiopia, it refers to the eastern and southern part of Ethiopia for this particular report.
Okay. I know aid agencies, the UN, other organizations, your organization will be trying to get food into this part of Africa. Are you able to actually get food there? And I imagine the price of that food's become more expensive for you as well.
Absolutely. Local food systems, unfortunately, have been disrupted due to the inflation that we just referred to. It's very difficult to get access to some communities because of ongoing conflict in some parts of the, Ethiopia and Somalia. So as a result of that, we're not able to reach as many people as possible. On top of that, I think the biggest crisis that we are seeing in terms of access is the lack of funding for the response that we seek. Just as a reference, out of the $4.4 billion that the UN has requested to respond to this hunger crisis in the Horn of Africa, only 2% of it is funded so far. So this tells you the level of gap that we're dealing with in terms of funding for the responses. So we want to do more. We are trying to do as much as we can, but not enough resources have been mobilized, unfortunately.
The report says that women and children, women and children are specifically hard hit. We know this will have a long-term impact on children. Are women also giving up food for their children? Is that part of one of the reasons why they suffer so much?
Absolutely. You're absolutely correct. As you rightly mentioned, women are usually, girls and women particularly, are the last to eat under any circumstances in a family setting. When crisis like this happens, women only eat the least. They also eat last. Children also face the same thing. In addition to not having sufficient amount of food for their families, they also have to travel long distances in search of water, which is very crucial for their families. In that process, particularly when being displaced as a result of the search for water and food, they usually face exploitation, they face rape, and children are abducted and married off as a way to generate income for families. So the crisis is multifaceted.
So many different consequences to it. Hiwot Emishaw, thank you. The regional official spokesperson for Save the Children in Southern Africa, in Central and Southern Africa, shows you how serious that situation is there in that part of the world.